Emergencies, dear. My in-laws smiled after getting a key to our house from my husband. What did you do? I turned to him. It doesn't matter, he snapped without looking up. How sweet. I smiled. And a second later, I showed him the scan on my phone. His face darkened when he saw. My name's Melanie, I'm 30, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina, with my husband Tyler and our 3-year-old daughter, Chloe. After years of living in a cramped apartment with more noise than insulation, we were finally building our dream home. Modern farmhouse style, big kitchen island, wraparound porch. I designed the layout myself and paid for most of it with my savings, inheritance, and every penny I didn't spend on takeout. It was supposed to be our fresh start, a place where we could finally breathe. Tyler and I had been married for 6 years. He worked as a logistics coordinator and I did freelance design from home. We split household expenses evenly, but when it came to big financial planning, like a house, I took the lead. Tyler didn't have much in savings, and honestly, I didn't mind funding the project. I just wanted it done right. The build was slow, full of hiccups, but finally nearing completion. We spent most weekends touring hardware stores and furniture showrooms. Usually, Chloe stayed with my parents, who lived 10 minutes away and adored her. But one morning, my dad called to say he had to go to urgent care, and Mom was taking him. We'll cancel the showroom trip, I told Tyler, grabbing my phone to call the contractor. He frowned. Wait, why not ask my parents? His tone made it sound like such a reasonable option, but I hesitated. His parents, Gianna and Ron, lived 20 minutes out and had a long history of crossing boundaries. Gianna had opinions about everything, child rearing, cookware, whether it was appropriate to own a white couch with a toddler. She once told me my taste in curtains was uninspired for someone with an art degree. Still, I gave in. We were running out of time to make design decisions, and rescheduling would have pushed us back another week. I packed Chloe's overnight bag, dropped her off at Gianna's house, and even brought along an expensive tin of imported cookies as a thank you gift. Gianna accepted them with a dramatic sniff and oh, these? I prefer homemade, but fine. When we picked Chloe up later that evening, she was playing quietly in the corner with her stuffed penguin. On the way home, she said something that made my stomach clench. Mommy, where will Grandpa's room be in our new house? I looked at her through the rearview mirror. What do you mean, sweetie? Grandma said I'll have a playroom, and they'll have the big room upstairs. I blinked. They who? She hugged her penguin tighter and shrugged. Grandma and Grandpa. At first I chalked it up to toddler confusion. Maybe Gianna had been playing pretend. Maybe Chloe misunderstood. I didn't press her. But things started to shift. Fast. Gianna and Ron began dropping by our apartment more often. At first, they brought baked goods and happened to stay for coffee. Then they started asking detailed questions about the house. What insulation we used, where the laundry room would be, how big the closets were. Every time they asked, Tyler pulled out the blueprints like a proud little boy showing off his science fair volcano. I watched him unroll those plans like they belonged to all of us, not just the person footing the bill. One evening, they came over uninvited, again, and Gianna pointed at the layout. This won't do, she said, tapping her manicured nail on the kitchen placement. You'll want more southern light. And this bedroom wall? It blocks energy. You should open it up. Ron grunted his agreement. And where's the den? We'll need a space to relax. I blinked. We? Tyler shot me a look that said, don't start. But I'd had enough. Actually, I said calmly, Tyler and I already finalized the layout with the contractor. At this point, we're past design changes. Gianna pursed her lips. Well, no wonder it feels off. A house should serve the whole family. I thought it did, I said, smiling so tightly my jaw hurt. After they left, I turned to Tyler. Why are they acting like they're moving in? He looked at me like I was overreacting. They're just excited. Let them feel included. Included in what? The mortgage they're not paying? The construction they didn't contribute to? He got quiet, then annoyed. You don't have to be so cold. I'm not cold, I snapped. I'm just not willing to let your parents steamroll me in my own house. That night, he slept facing the wall. The weeks passed in tense silence. We kept things cordial for Chloe, but beneath the surface, something had cracked. Then came moving day. Tyler had picked up the keys early in the morning while I finished packing. Chloe was at daycare so we could unload in peace. I arrived at the new house around noon, excited and exhausted. There was already a moving truck in the driveway. Odd, I thought. We hadn't scheduled delivery until 3. Then I saw them, Gianna in a linen pantsuit, shouting orders at the movers like a 5-star general, and Ron supervising the unloading of a suspicious number of boxes. I parked, walked up slowly, and asked Tyler, "What's going on?" "Oh," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "They're moving in." I blinked. "They're what?" "They're staying with us for a while." "Just until they sort things out." "We talked about this." "No, we didn't. They saw the upstairs room yesterday and loved it. It'll be perfect for them." "They saw the house before I did?" He shrugged. "They were curious." I had the keys. I stared at him, stunned. "So they're just moving in?" He smiled, trying to soften the blow. "Just temporarily." I walked into the house and looked up the stairs. Chloe's future bedroom, painted in mint and filled with sunlight, was about to become Gianna's personal kingdom. I stood in the entryway, surrounded by boxes, noise, and voices that weren't mine. The walls were freshly painted, but the air already felt stale. I turned, walked up the stairs, and shut the door behind me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat on the floor, staring at the room that was supposed to be ours. And I started thinking. Because if they thought this house was theirs, they were in for one hell of a surprise. By the time I came down from Chloe's mint green bedroom, the living room was unrecognizable. Gianna had taken off her jacket, fluffed the couch cushions, and was rearranging the throw pillows I had chosen 3 weeks ago. Ron was shouting for an extension cord while a mover hauled in a stack of his antique vinyls. Tyler, naturally, was nowhere to be found. I stood silently, taking in the scene. Gianna caught sight of me and waved. "Melanie!" We were just saying how perfect this space is. I already have ideas for curtains, something floral but mature. I stared at her. "You're serious?" She smiled as if I'd complimented her. "Of course." "It just feels right here," Ron added. "This open layout is ideal." "Not bad, Mel. Not bad at all." My hands curled into fists, nails digging into my palms. "You do realize I didn't agree to this?" Gianna gave a sharp laugh. "Oh, honey, sometimes things fall into place whether you plan them or not." "No," I said flatly. "This wasn't the plan." "This is trespassing in wallpaper form." Tyler finally reappeared, carrying a box labeled kitchen. He looked surprised, like he hadn't expected me to still be standing there. I turned to him. "We need to talk." Now he sighed, walked past me into the kitchen, and set the box down with exaggerated care. "Not now. Everyone's exhausted." "Can we not do this today?" "Funny, you didn't ask if I wanted to do this at all." He dropped the act. "It's temporary, Melanie. They need help. You're acting like they're intruders." "That's exactly what they are." He frowned. "They're my parents." "They're not mine. And they don't get to live in my house just because they feel like it." Tyler's jaw clenched. "They're not just living here." We agreed. "No." I cut him off. "We did not agree." "You decided." Before he could reply, Gianna popped in. "Everything okay, kids?" I ignored her. "Where's Chloe supposed to sleep now?" "That room upstairs was hers." "They'll only take it for now," Tyler said. "She can sleep with us for a while." Unbelievable. I left the room before I said something I couldn't unsay. Back upstairs, I closed the door again, locked it, and sat on the floor, shaking. I couldn't think straight. I needed Chloe to stay at daycare for as long as possible today. I needed air. I needed silence. But more than that, I needed control. That afternoon, Gianna unpacked as if she were moving into a boutique hotel she personally designed. Her clothes went straight into the built-in closet. She opened the linen cabinet and muttered that the towels were too scratchy. She asked for a second drawer in the bathroom and started labeling pantry shelves. Ron, for his part, wanted to mount his TV over the fireplace, my fireplace. He called it the natural gathering spot. When I told him no one had discussed it with me, he said, "That's because we didn't want to overwhelm you." At dinner, I sat across from them in my own dining room and realized I was the outsider in a house I funded. The breaking point came 2 nights later. Gianna had just finished loudly criticizing the cheap cookware I'd bought when Ron made a casual remark about needing a key. "You know, just in case we need to get in when you two aren't home." I raised an eyebrow. Why would you need to get in when we aren't home? Gianna waved her fork. Emergencies, dear. Besides, Tyler already gave us a copy. I turned to him. You what? Tyler didn't even look up from his plate. It's not a big deal. I stood, grabbed my water glass, and walked to the sink. My hands trembled. This was not just boundary crossing. This was full invasion. That night, after Chloe was asleep, Tyler and I had it out in the kitchen. It wasn't shouting. It was something worse, quiet, sharp, final. You expect me to cook, clean, work, raise our daughter, and now play hostess to your parents? They're my family, Melanie. They raised me. Can't you show some respect? They didn't raise me. And this isn't about respect. This is about entitlement. He laughed bitterly. You're so cold sometimes. It's like you don't care about anyone but yourself. That's when I said it. If that's how you see me, maybe you should live with people you actually understand. He scoffed. If you can't even handle my parents being here, maybe we should rethink this whole marriage. I locked eyes with him. Fine. Let's. There was a long silence. Then he tried to soften his tone. You don't mean that. I took out my phone from the kitchen drawer, unlocked it, and scrolled to a photo. It was a digital scan of an IOU, Tyler's handwriting, dated and signed. I printed it months ago. It stated, in plain language, that I had loaned him $259,000 from my inheritance and savings to fund the home build, that the money would be returned to me in the event of divorce or property sale. I'm going to ask for that back. He looked pale. What? Gianna entered the room just in time to hear me repeat it. The loan. I want it repaid. You're threatening your own husband? She snapped. No, I'm protecting myself. This house was built on my money. You didn't contribute a cent. You're being hysterical. I walked out. I packed quietly the next morning. Just what I needed. Important documents, clothes, Chloe's favorite books and toys, and the stuffed penguin she couldn't sleep without. I loaded everything into the car, then picked Chloe up early from daycare. We drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead. When Mom opened the door, I was still wearing my work hoodie, hair a mess, and carrying a box labeled legal. Can I stay here a few days? She stepped aside wordlessly. Dad brought in the bags. Neither of them asked for details. They didn't need to. They just gave me tea, a quiet room, and space to breathe. That night, while Chloe watched cartoons, I sat down at my laptop and got to work. I uploaded the IOU. I backed up recordings, conversations where Tyler admitted the money came from me, moments Gianna dismissed my voice like I was a tenant. I emailed everything to myself, my sister, and an encrypted drive. The next morning, I called a law firm. 3 consultations later, I found the right one. A woman named Elise. Sharp, calm, the kind of person who could skin someone alive with a smile. She listened, nodded, then said, You've already done half the work. Let me do the rest. A week passed. Then Tyler showed up at my workplace. He waited outside in the parking lot like some stray memory, disheveled and tired. I didn't want a scene, so I agreed to talk at a nearby coffee shop. Neutral territory. He looked terrible. Hair unkempt, shirt wrinkled, circles under his eyes. I'll give you the house, he said, before the waitress even brought water. Can we not do the legal stuff? Please? I raised my brows. You'll give me the house? I'll take my name off everything. You can keep it, and the money. He swallowed hard. I can't pay it back. Not now. You knew it was a loan. I thought we were just talking. I didn't think you'd go this far. I stared at him, then said calmly, You never thought I'd leave. That's the real problem. His expression collapsed. I stood, put cash on the table, and picked up my bag. Chloe's waiting for me. And I don't trust you around her anymore. As I walked toward the exit, he called after me. I'll take care of her, Melanie. I'm still her father. And just like that, the tremor I'd been holding back all week became a full earthquake, because I knew what that meant, and I wasn't about to let him, or his mother, steal the only thing more important to me than that house. The next day, I called Chloe's daycare before breakfast. I didn't want to sound paranoid, but I also didn't want to be caught off guard. I told them clearly, only I or my parents are allowed to pick up my daughter. No one else. Not her father. Not her grandparents. They agreed and flagged her file. I exhaled for the first time in days, but that bubble of relief popped 3 afternoons later when the daycare called me in a panic. A couple claiming to be Chloe's grandparents came by to get her. We had them wait in the conference room. Should we call the police? I'm on my way, I said, grabbing my keys like they were weapons. When I arrived, I found Gianna and Ron seated like royalty in folding chairs, visibly annoyed by the delay. Gianna stood the moment I walked in. You're being ridiculous. We're her family. No, you're dangerous, I said coldly. You don't get to ambush my daughter. Ron scowled. You're turning her against us. She's 3, I snapped. She doesn't even know what manipulation means, but you're doing a great job teaching by example. Gianna's voice sharpened. This is why you don't belong in our family. You always thought you were better than us. I crossed my arms. No, I just think you shouldn't live off your daughter-in-law's bank account and then call her a burden. Gianna's eyes narrowed. How did you even have that kind of money? Tyler said you were just a freelancer. I saved. I inherited. I worked. Unlike you, I understand financial planning. Gianna's face flushed crimson. You mean to tell me you had that money all along and didn't gift it to your husband? It was a loan, I said flatly. Documented, signed, and legally binding. Ron looked like he'd swallowed glass. You could still make it a gift, Gianna said, voice laced with bitterness. If you cared about your family, I did care. Until you moved into my house uninvited and tried to push me out of my own life. I turned to the daycare director and asked politely, can someone please escort them out? They were banned from pickup from that day forward. But the ambush attempts didn't stop. Gianna and Ron showed up twice at my parents' house. Once, I caught Gianna poking around our backyard like she was casing the place. Another time, Ron stood in the driveway, arms folded, yelling that I was poisoning Chloe against her heritage. Each time, I stayed calm. I never yelled. I hit record on my phone and made sure everything was documented. Tone, threats, even physical proximity. My lawyer Elise told me to keep a full log. I did. Every time they grabbed my arm, shouted in front of Chloe, or tried to push past the front door, it went into the folder labeled Evidence for Court. Then came the formal notice. Elise sent Tyler an offer for divorce settlement and debt repayment, including full custody for me and visitation restrictions for his parents. He refused, claimed he wouldn't abandon his daughter. But when Elise sent a second letter reminding him that I could file for alimony and request retroactive compensation, his tune changed quickly. He'd lost the house. Or rather, he kept it, until he realized he couldn't afford it. After I left, Tyler stayed with his parents in that house for a while, but they couldn't keep up with the mortgage or maintenance. Tyler tried selling it, but the market wasn't kind to desperate men. After months of dropping the price and watching interest slip away, he finally sold it for $40,000 less than it cost to build. He borrowed money from a local bank to cover the shortfall and was now juggling debt with no home and 3 dependents, because of course his sister had moved in with 2 teenage sons after her own divorce. They all lived in Ron and Gianna's aging bungalow now, 6 people, 1 bathroom, and walls thin enough to let the whole neighborhood hear every argument. They had become the loud house on the block, the one that people walked past quickly, avoiding eye contact. Meanwhile, my life became quieter. I stayed at my parents' place longer than I planned. It was warm, safe, and Chloe loved having Grandma and Grandpa tuck her in. I took on more work, rebuilt my finances, and slowly let my shoulders drop from my ears. For a while, I thought I'd sworn off relationships. But life has a sense of humor. It started with morning drop-offs at Chloe's new preschool. Another single parent, his name was Daniel, had a daughter in the same class. We started with awkward hellos, then coffee chats, then playdates. He was 36, divorced, raising a first grader named Ava. He listened when I talked. Actually listened. Not just nodded while thinking of what to say next. One rainy Saturday, we took the girls to the library, and Chloe said something that stopped me cold. If we build a house again, can it have a room for Ava too? And a dog? Daniel looked at me, startled. I laughed nervously. She likes to plan ahead. But the truth was, so did I. Daniel had proposed to me, gently, months earlier. No pressure, no timeline. Just a question. Would you consider building something together? Something real? I hadn't answered. Until now, that night, I pulled Chloe into my lap on the couch, brushed her hair back, and whispered, "Yes, we'll build again. This time, I'd build a house that couldn't be hijacked. A house filled with peace, not performance. A home with doors that only opened for people who knew what respect meant. And for the first time in years, I believed I deserved it. Every square foot of it.